Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got Stacey with me, and we're going to talk about the dumpster fire Build Back Better framework. They keep reintroducing this garbage, $555 billion towards climate change. There's a lot in here. We're going to talk about what it is, how they plan on paying for it, and exactly what's in it, or some of what, some of the meat of what's in it.
Well, you guys, this bill is over 1,000 pages. It's like 1,455 pages long.
And they got 24 hours to read it.
Yeah, they've got, so apparently it just came out, was it yesterday morning, like 1 a.m., somewhere around in there. Rand Paul actually brought the whole entire document out and put it out in front of everybody and said, they're giving us 24 hours to review it, process it, and then I think they're supposed to vote on it today. And how is that even possible? Because once again, they're pushing this Build Back Better, and they're the same price tag, $555 billion for all this green, climate, energy, all that kind of stuff. So, but there's a few hidden things in there that I thought would be interesting. I tried to do a little research. Of course, you can't find everything that's in this bill because it's enormously long, but...
Yeah, there's virtue signaling, like, it's going to be a good thing for morally for Ukraine. There's a lot of... It's just repackaged in a different way for a little bit smaller price. It was $3.5 trillion, but now it's $1.7.
Yep.
And they'll strong arm the Republicans somehow to vote for something like this, and under the guise of,
Well, yeah, under the guise. So they're pulling at the heartstrings. How interesting that Zelensky showed up yesterday at the White House and did this huge, meet and greet with the president, went and spoke before, the House and the Senate or whatever. My goodness, go look at the kiss that he and Nancy Pelosi had. He brought the flag for everyone to sign, and they're saying it's a $45 billion bill that's also in this bill that they're trying to push, and they're saying, oh, how can you not support this bill? It's going to help the Ukrainians. There's also a $45 billion mark in here also for the military. So they're telling the whole entire people, if you guys don't vote for this, that you're patriotic. So these seem to be the three factors that they're really keying on, and then there's a bunch of hidden agendas also.
And the Democrats are trying to enact a plan through the budgetary process called reconciliation,
right,
which would allow it to clear the Senate solely with Democratic support,
right,
only.
Right. And so some of the Democrats, though, I think have been pushing back a little bit.
Well, backing from all corners of the Democratic Party remains to be seen, as cut from the framework were key priorities from some lawmakers. So there were some things cut,
right,
that some people really wanted.
Right.
They want their buddies to get, their billions and millions of dollars. But they're not going to get it this time, but they are going to get a lot, and it's going to go towards our green future, how we're going to cut carbon emissions 50% by 2030. Remember that.
Impossible.
They're going to punish and demand and make it hard to live anywhere with these plans.
Well, it says in here that it was going to be, it was, quote, it was green, climate and clean energy investments. And so who do you think are going to get this money for these investments? It's all these startup businesses that are going to be their buddies. We've seen this happen before. These businesses, a good portion of them fail. They never have to repay this money, and that's going to be part of that $555 billion. We've seen this before.
Well, there is some good news in the Build Back Better dumpster fire framework. You could get up to $12,500 towards your new electric car. They're talking about how you could, some families could drop that gas guzzler and get an electric car. And I was thinking, that would be great. I could trade in my old welding truck and put the welding machine in the back of the electric car, and then I could run the welding machine to run the car.
That would be
because they don't go far enough and they don't pull enough yet. But,
that'll
make a really good video. I might do it.
That is good. Yeah, they sure are. They're saying that.
There's child care and universal pre-K in this bill.
Mm-hmm. Stop, I want to talk about that. We were in there talking about that a little bit, how that's price control. Because they're saying it's only going to be 7%. I believe it was 7% of their income that they're going to be required to pay. So you think about this. People that make only $100,000, that's only $7,000.
Well, wait a minute. Let me tell them what it is.
Okay.
$400 billion in child care and preschool through programs funded for 6 years. So that means at the end of 6 years, they're going to have to hold that over, hold that carrot out in front of the donkey again. To, hey, all this funding's going to go away if you don't vote for all this money to go to something that the government couldn't run anyway. The only thing they do is run things in the ground because there's no initiative. There's no, they don't have to hire the best employees. They hire who they're told to hire by the superpowers that, and that's just not how you run a business. You have to find people to run businesses the right way, and it is impossible for the government to do that. In addition to expanding access to universal preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds, the plan also limits child care costs for some families no more than 7% of income.
Right.
So what is that? Go ahead and talk about that.
No, we were discussing that earlier. So we were talking about how it's going to affect. So most people that open businesses, you're doing it for a profit. I mean, that's just facts. And when you get these daycares and these preschools and all this kind of stuff, pre-Ks and all that, if you're only getting certain amount of money from the family and it's being subsidized by, so I only have to pay so much and the rest is being subsidized by the government. We know how that works. So that's going to be a price control. And he and I were talking about that's going to make the probably, I would say, the businesses, their what am I looking for? How they do business is going to go way down. The care, the facilities.
It's going to fall apart. Price controls never, ever work. You go back in history anywhere and find one that worked. Does not exist. What will happen is the care will get crappier. You can't. You have to. It's a supply and demand thing. It's just like, anything. If somebody couldn't come to me and say, hey, the government says, here's what I make, I can't pay more than 7% of this. I'm like, well, I can't build it for that, but I have to.
Right.
That it's not going to work.
Nope.
Not going to work. It is to bait people into thinking this is a good thing, and it's just more garbage.
It's just more government control.
Right. And 7%, I don't know how much of your income should go to child care.
A lot does when I talk to people, and you guys know we don't have kids, but you guys know that have kids and work and have to put them in daycare. It's expensive.
That's the thing. We don't get any of this Medicare expansion, none of it.
You have an extended child tax credit, and you guys can get in and read the numbers and all that. But yeah, they say it's monthly payments. And you guys tell us if you guys have kids that you get tax credits on this. They say most families receive monthly payments of either $250 or $300 per child. So do you get that at the end of the year maybe? But then you still got to pay taxes on it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because we've not been down that road.
We don't get any of this.
And then the other thing they said there was 4 weeks of paid family and medical leave. Oh, you want to go back to the Medicare? I'm sorry.
Well, it's interesting. They wanted to expand Medicare to cover hearing services, but the framework got eliminated. But it also included, this is what they want in the beginning, it included dental, vision, and, it's a Bernie Sanders knockoff. But what I don't like is being forced to pay for somebody's health care that a lot of times that person does not care about their health. And I just don't, this communistic approach to health care is not going to work either.
Yeah, that's a tough subject because you do have people that did not make a lot, and you see them when they do get older that they have not planned for it, and we're reaching a lot of that right now, and they're not able to care for themselves, and like you said, they're not in good health, and so that's
you got
that's
diabetics drinking Cokes every day, and you got I know several of them. They're doing, and I'm not perfect. I do things that are unhealthy too, but I pay for my health care. I don't feel like I'm responsible for somebody else's health care. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But here it is. But here's the thing. They're not telling us we got to pay for it. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. They're going to make the wealthy pay for all this. It's always that, those uber wealthy people, they're going to have to foot the bill for this. But we'll talk about what that's going to do a little bit later on.
So anyway, I want to go back to the 4 weeks then of paid family and medical leave. The government is going to pay. They wanted 12 weeks, but I guess they ran the numbers and they're like, wait, this is too costly, so let's scale it back. They're going to pay for 4 weeks. So I guess I don't know how they're going to do that. You're going to just apply through your job or something? I don't know. But the government's going to have to pay for that also.
Yeah, they're just going to, and anything like that can be manipulated.
$400 billion. So you got $550 billion for the climate. You've got $400 billion for all this child care and health care and all this kind of stuff. And they only gave $100 billion to reform the nation's immigration system. So you could see where their priorities were when it came to this bill.
Now, the bill under consideration by the White House includes an additional $100 billion to reform the nation's immigration system. This will include stuff for the dreamers, and it's virtue signaling. It's hey, we got to get all those votes, so we got to take care of those people, and that's the end of it. They do not care about these people. They only care about themselves. I need you to remember that. It's just the facts.
Yep. Well, I think they're going to give 7 million unauthorized immigrants. They're going to give them visas to work, which that happens, as we all know. What I thought was interesting, though, is they're going to give access to Dreamers for Pell Grants, but we'll get into that a little bit also. But they're going to give $150 billion to build or improve more than 1 million new affording housing units and help with rental and down payment assistance. Now, who do you think is going to get that money?
Eventually, people like
BlackRock,
Blackstone, and that's the problem is nobody needs to get that money. The money should never be out there. It's a way to manipulate the economy that's already manipulated. They got to keep doing it. They got to, we're in this mess and there's no getting out of it.
Well, it's just all
It's not
these,
the free market anymore.
No, it's not. It's all these things that are in this bill that at first glance, you're like, oh, that's actually pretty good. Maybe that would help someone. But who is going to initially pay for that? I mean, we're already $31 trillion in debt. And now you're going to add an extra $1.75 trillion. But anyway, also it said it's going to, for healthcare, it's going to lower the premium, an average of $600 per person. But if you bought insurance through the Affordable Care Act marketplace, or you don't have insurance, you're currently uninsured, which we didn't do that. We have to pay for our own insurance. So I guess we won't be getting that.
We don't get any of this stuff. We just get to pay for it eventually.
We had to pay for years or we got fined. I had to prove every year that we had it.
Not only that, and they're going to provide coverage for up to 4 million Americans who are uncovered at the moment. Mm-hmm. So we're providing health care for everybody. Mm-hmm. Universal health care, universal income, and they want to provide 2 free years of community college. That was cut from the bill.
Okay, stop that for a second. Because you know what? When I read that, I was like, man, you're going to give away so much free. And there's a couple things that I want to point out that's in this bill. You're going to give, let me just tell you real quick. We're going to give $2 million for gender equality fund in Pakistan. We're going to give $4.10 million for border securities for other countries. We're going to give $2 million for Nancy Pelosi for a fellowship program where she does interns. But we can't give some of our citizens help with community college. And I'm not saying everything should be free. I'm on the fence about that when it comes to college and all that kind of stuff. But if it would give some of these kids to get into college and off the streets and give them, I know there's some people, I was talking to this at one point, they literally live in their cars because they cannot afford housing versus college. And if it would help some of these kids, I would gladly take away some of this other stuff in there. That's what I don't get. They cut this. Now, I did find interesting, they're going to up the Pell Grant for about $550, and they're going to give it to the Dreamers, which that I know of has never happened before. Because I personally know kids that have come here with their parents. They were little small. They're illegal. They're not, citizens. But they have been amazing in school. They graduated with scholarships. They should have been able to get scholarships because they were not legal. They could not have these scholarships. So I see both sides. They're here illegally. I get it. That's a tough subject. But anyway, so
for the most part, college is a joke. Period.
It is, but sometimes community colleges though have their place.
Yeah, but you can teach that online. The majority, you can take the best professor and he can teach 1 million people. Okay. Nobody can talk me out of that unless you're learning a trade. Now, I went to community college and learned a trade, and that's kind of a hands-on thing. You kind of have to, have the equipment But I just know anytime the government's involved, there's going to be catastrophic amount of needless spending. There's people going to be jamming money in their pockets and all their little, they put this money out. They make this $1.7 trillion and it goes to the certain people. It does. And then a little bit falls out to where it should go. Mm-hmm. And, it gets diverted and nobody gets it. Yep. That's the problem with all these things. It's like we're talking about nothing really. It's like, it's a bunch of garbage that the people that need it aren't going to get it, but it looks good on paper. That's pretty much what the whole thing is. And that goes for every bill from now on, anything that comes out, and especially if it says for climate change. Yeah. That is going to be the ultimate. That is, if you mention climate change, then you're in. That's good. If it says climate change, then you get paid. That's where we're at.
We are.
And it's more virtue signaling.
Yep. Well, you want to talk about how they plan to pay for it?
I do.
All right.
This sounds so good to so many people.
Yep.
Biden's proposal, a 15% tax will be imposed on corporate profits, as well as a 1% surcharge for corporate stock buybacks. Those provisions would raise $450 billion in new revenue. Okay. What happens? Let's say I'm a big corporate place right here.
So
what happens if they tax me 15 more percent?
Hold that thought. So right now I think we're at 21. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. They really wanted 38, but if they do the 15 extra, that's going to put us about 36. So you're right. So keep going.
So what happens if they do that to me? If they tax me to where it's no longer worth it, I'm going to quit.
You're going to close your business.
I'm going to close my business and I'm going to send it overseas, or I'm going to do something else. It never works out.
Yeah.
And who's going to pay for that? These guys aren't stupid. These corporate people that make the money aren't dumb. They're going to go somewhere else and do it somewhere else and find another way. Maybe they'll all get into the green energy thing. I don't know. But,
or find tax loopholes.
And that is going to result in more layoffs, more people without a job because their company says, no, it's not worth it anymore. I'm not going to do it.
Yep. Nope, it is. So, and also, go ahead.
I was going to keep going.
No, then they're going to. So it talks about the wealthiest, the Americans, that they're going to.
The framework also calls for a global minimum tax and new surtax on the wealthiest Americans' income. The bill would impose 5% tax rate above those with income over $10 million and another 3% tax rate, surtax, on income over $25 million. And I know a lot of us, and it's easy for me to think like this too. Oh, well, they're rich. They don't need all that money.
Right.
But they're the ones that pay the majority of the taxes already.
And create the most jobs.
Yep.
And so you start taking that away, and then you're going to have problems. And they are determined. They're going to chase tax cheaters.
So the surtax on the wealthiest Americans is going to raise $230 billion from the nation's already highest earning taxpayers.
Yep. So that was pretty much some of the stuff that we found in the bill. There was one more thing that I saw that was kind of interesting. Two more things that were hidden in the bill that wasn't in this document. It was a $535 million is going to be assigned for the next influenza pandemic. And in there it listed, and you guys can get online and find it for yourself, but it listed all the provisions. It was going to be for medical supplies, vaccines, all that. But right at the very end it said, and quote, it's going to be used for surveillance tools. And even the Representative Dan Bishop, I found the tweet that he came out with, and he said also there's another one. There's going to be $507 million. It's going to be for family planning, and he put in quotes, in areas where population growth is, quote, threatened biodiversity. And I looked that up, and you guys can look up the definition of that. But they're actually calling out and telling some of the people, they're like, hey, maybe you guys should consider not having kids in this certain neighborhood or this certain area. Become like Canada, where they start saying voluntary euthanasia.
Speaking of having kids, Bill Gates is having a grandkid. And he came out, and I quote, I started looking at the world through a whole new lens recently. My older daughter gave me an incredible news that I'll become a grandfather next year. Gates wrote in a letter published overnight. So he can sum up the solution to climate change in 2 sentences. We need to eliminate global emissions by greenhouse gases by 2050. Extreme weather is already causing more suffering, and if we don't get to net zero, which is absolutely impossible, our grandchildren will grow up in a world that is dramatically worse off. Unfortunately, on near-term goals, we're falling short. So everything we've done so far to crush the economy in the name of greenism, ESGism, is not good enough. We've gone from 51 billion tons of carbon to 52 billion tons of carbon. So it's kind of case in point. Here you go. Mm-hmm. This crap doesn't work, but we're going to force it down your throat anyway. And in the meantime, take this medicine and vote Democrat.
Yeah, and the farmers are paying the bill for this. I talked to a farmer the other day, and they have to produce carbon footprints. Credits, that's that thing, and carbon credits. And they're not even allowed to use them. They have to turn these carbon credits over to a broker, and the broker sells them. And he said how it's just breaking them. It's literally just destroying them.
That's the point.
Yeah, it is.
That is control the food, control the people, and it's been done through history, and we're gonna live it for a little while until people get enough of it. But here we are. I wish I had some good news. What's some good news?
Oh, we got a funny story for you. If you hung on to this long, let's tell about what happened to the camper yesterday.
Yeah. If the camper was a Build Back Better plan, it happened yesterday. So I was going to flush the pooper. I'll make this real
Well, we were kind of winterizing it. So
winterizing it, draining the tanks. One of them's the black tank. So if you've never done it, you drain the black tank first, and then you shut the black tank, and then you open the gray water tank, and it'll flush out your hose, and it's not too bad. Okay, so the gray tank was empty, so I went to fill up the gray tank. I shut the valve, fill the gray tank up.
Left the water running in the camper.
I go to get the stuff I need to drain it, and somebody pulls up to pick up some material that I built for them, and I got sidetracked, completely forgot about it. I came back, and it was dumping water out of everywhere.
It was
Everything
really
was
pouring out of
just,
the bottom of the camper.
So,
and all I could do was laugh, and I just looked at him and I said, I'm glad it was you that did it and not me.
it's okay. It's drying up. I got a heater in it and a fan, and it's
Don't sweat the small stuff.
That's right. If you let the little things get you down, you'll be down all the time. Guys, have an awesome day. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you in the next one later.
Thanks for not sharing my story.
I didn't want to